All right. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the regular board meeting of the Waterloo Community Schools Board of Directors and ask that you join me in a moment of silence. Thank you, and will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and now Jesse Knight will read our mission statement.
Waterloo Schools community commits to a comprehensive system of education and support to ensure that each and every student will graduate prepared for college, career, and citizenship as evidenced by continuing education, pursuing a career path, and contributing to a community.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I can hear myself. It's
I had to do a tape delay because so nothing inappropriate is aired, like the Oscars when they
Oh, right. Well, with me at the chair, you never know what might come out of somebody's mouth. So there you go. The first item on our agenda this evening is item A, and this is a cooperative sponsorship agreement, and this is just for information only. Both Dan Huff, Dan Huff isn't here this evening, but you are, Pam. So if you want to address this, please go ahead.
So we used to do this as an approval process to approve all of the sponsorship agreements coming into the school. The law has since changed, and it is just a renewal. We do not have to approve it. Dr. Lindemann does have to sign, but these are all renewals. There are no new ones coming in. So it's just it's for information, just so that you know who we are sharing with.
And I just want to clarify, by sponsorship, we're not talking about funding a sponsorship.
Correct.
We're talking about the school that is in charge of the program, and we're in regards to athletics.
Correct.
So, just a clarification.
Students are coming in to participate in activities that they do not have at their school.
Respective schools.
Correct.
Exactly. So, okay. The next item on our agenda then is information from individuals and delegations, and I would ask this evening if there is anyone here who wishes to address the board. All right. Well, then, seeing none, we will move on to our consent agenda this evening. Bear with me, it's a long one, so it consists of the following items: the minutes of the May 13th, 2019 regular board meeting, personnel appointments and adjustments, bills due and payable and bills paid between board meetings, the West High football team travel to the University of South Dakota, an open enrollment appeal, the educational service agreement with Kirkwood Community College, the school nursing contract, Communities and Schools Memorandum of Understanding, setting the date for the public hearing for the sale or disposal of real property, the Waterloo Career Center Culinary Arts Kitchen Equipment quote, the Student Transportation Service Contract, and the District Safe School Emergency Operations Plan, or EOP. Are there any items that board members wish to have removed from the consent agenda?
Item C, Charlie.
Item C, Charlie.
Item F, Foxtrot.
Item F,
And J, Julio.
and item J. Item K,
Item L.
item L, and item N. All right, so, whoops,
Do we want item E since one of the coaches is there?
sure. You want to pull E?
Yeah, we'll pull you.
Okay. All right, so I would what's the word I'm looking for? I would entertain a motion to put on the table items B, D, G, M, and O.
So moved.
Thank you, Sue. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, so all those in favor of approving those items on the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. That takes us then to item C, which is personnel appointments and adjustments.
I move the Board of Education approve the personnel items as listed.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sue. And discussion.
I'm just curious if we had an update on, I think all the teacher contracts are supposed to be back by now. How did we come? Did we get more? Less? How are we responded to that? Just a little update on where we're at.
So is the question, do we get more of them this time last year or?
Well, just,
Oh, yeah, so we almost have all of them in. I got the report today from Evan, and so I had to double check there's not any stragglers out there. But by and large, we should have all contracts signed by tomorrow, for sure. The only reason why we didn't have contracts signed was just because people may say they forgot or whatever the case may be, and they didn't get back to us. But by and large, we had at the deadline. Sorry, I'm doing the math in my head. We had over about 850 left, and we have about 863 contracts that went out. So we only had about 13 teachers that hadn't signed for whatever reason. Some of them hadn't signed for a variety of different reasons, and so we were able to contact those 13. Some had made some mistakes, and so I think we were probably running around almost near to 95% overall, getting them all back in, and
Okay.
people letting us know that they will or will not. So it was good. It was good. It was a good turnout.
so I know you don't have much history here, but from a historical perspective, are we kind of normal? Are we above normal in terms of needing to recruit teachers, or are we, where are we at?
Ahead of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we're in a good place. I mean, we've filled a lot of our positions. I think right now we're in the kind of dance that we play when you have those resignations that people are, because I think Waterloo does a really good job of getting our hiring done earlier and doing the contract period earlier. You run into some situations like now where a lot of districts are ultimately they're opening their positions up. And so now it's a kind of a dance as far as, hey, I just got this admin job, or hey, I really want to move closer to home. And it's like, hey, you signed a contract. And so we're trying to work out as much as possible to find that suitable replacement when we can. So I'll have a lot more information at our July meeting, because right now we're doing the dance, so to speak.
Okay, in terms of the hard-to-fill positions,
Oh, so yeah. So in terms of the hard-to-fill positions, in particular, I think we were looking at Cunningham and special education at the beginning of last year. I feel really good with where Cunningham has been. They've hired a lot of their positions that we didn't backfill at the beginning of the year because we couldn't find adequate candidates. So Nadrika's done a really good job as far as finding those positions. And I would say special ed, Ivan and Sue and his team have worked extremely hard. They filled a number of positions. Off the top of my head, I think we have about 5 unfilled, 2 in which I'm worried about, which are Strat 2 positions, which are just really hard to find applicants for. But Ivan, I mean, I think as prior to this meeting, or as the meeting will be going on, I'll be sending out another recommendation for hire for another special ed position. And so Ivan's done a wonderful job as far as hiring all the positions we need. Now, again, that dance still applies. We're hoping that everybody stays for the entire summer at the beginning of the year, but ultimately we're in a really good spot, especially with special ed. And that was one of the main questions I think you and Sue and maybe even Astor had asked at the beginning of the year, why we had so many openings. And so we're feeling really good right now.
Okay.
And just maybe for the viewers, it might be helpful for people to know that this is the second year that we were able to get contracts out in an extremely timely fashion. And this year, it was even easier because the contracts went out electronically. So just when people are asking about the hiring process, I think in past years, I know one of the times since I've been here, I think contracts were due back on like August 12th or something like that. And it's just impossible to staff. And I know why those things happened. There were some very unforeseen situations that with legislation or whatever that happened that caused us to, the delay. But this year we were able to settle negotiations early, and then we got contracts out much earlier. And I think by and large the teachers really like that because they can get their contracts signed before they even leave and they know what the situation is. So that's what we're referencing tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other questions for Mr. Botchway?
I just was checking on the Lowell situation where, I mean, I looked on our, resignations or anything there. Our staff is pretty stable there then, correct?
Yeah, they are. I haven't heard any conversation about staff wanting to leave. There were questions overall, and from some Lowell staff that had been involuntarily transferred last year into Lowell when we had a couple of involuntary transfers at the beginning of the year. So I'm walking through one or two of those situations. But by and large, I haven't seen a ton of resignations or even communications as far as Lowell staff.
Great, thank you.
All right, anything further? Seeing none, then all those in favor of approving the personnel appointments and adjustments as listed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. That takes us then to item E, which is the West High football team travel. And that recommended motion is the Board of Education approve travel for the West High football team and 6 coaches to Vermillion, South Dakota, July 18th through the 20th of 2019.
So moved.
Thanks, Jesse. And a second? Thanks, Astor. And questions? I know we have Coach out there.
Coach Mulder is here. I thought since he came, if you wanted to tell us what he.
Yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about I know we have some documents here, but
Yep.
if you want to tell us a little bit about
Coach
it.
Moore couldn't be here tonight, otherwise he would have been. He's involved in an interview process at West High as a parent rep, actually, so it's pretty cool for him. Our South Dakota trip, this is about the 20th year West High has actually gone to a team camp, is what he told me this morning. 10 years ago when I was here, we went to Winona, been to Southwest Missouri State, Western Illinois, been all over the place. The South Dakota camp's an awesome opportunity for our guys. They work really hard during the summer. It's kind of a way to culminate all of that from all of our training camp that we do, our lineman camps and all that. The guys stay in the dorms up there with their players at night. It's an awesome opportunity for them to bond away from the football field. It has nothing to do with football other than the guys getting to be closer as brothers and as a team, which is what we want. Coaches for football wise, we have practices during the day. Their players actually help out with that as well. They go through drills with them. It's a great opportunity to scrimmage some other teams. Like I said, it goes way beyond just the X's and O's of football. It's a great thing for the kids to do. They raised all the money through our card sales and our fundraisers to be able to go. Each kid does pay their own way to the team camp, and then we obviously help out kids that can't completely afford the whole entire thing. We come up with some other ways to help them out as well. I think we're going to end up with about 40 players, between 6 and 9 coaches, depending upon how everything works out over the summer. Just ask for your support.
So how do you qualify for going?
It's something that we sign up for as far as team camp goes. There's teams from South Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa
mean
that are
that-
all there.
Student.
The
The students?
Yeah.
For our guys, we do a little bit different than a lot of people. A lot of people just take everybody. For us, it's mostly juniors and seniors and some sophomores. We have a dedication point system. They have to earn 150 dedication points from showing up to our team camp practices, weightlifting sessions, speed and agility, all sorts of things like that. They earn those points. And if they don't meet that 150 points, some people are told they can't have the opportunity to go. They haven't shown that dedication to the team. Other than that, the guys work all summer long, quite honestly, and the guys that work hard get to go, and that's kind of one of the rewards of working hard is get to go to team camp.
How many teams are generally up there at the same time?
Let's see. Last year when we went, I believe there was 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, 10 teams that were there. They have their dome up at the University of South Dakota. Part of it's in their dome. Part of it's outside on their grass fields. They split everybody up. He scrimmaged schools that are similar to us. So one of the schools we scrimmaged was East Sioux Falls. Really good team from up there. Really good guys just to hang out with and talk to also. But Creighton Prep out of Nebraska is another school, really big school. They're there as well. And then there's some small schools as well that our JV teams usually play with them. Right.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Coach. Anything else for him? All right, then all those in favor of approving the West High football team travel to the University of South Dakota, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. The next item on our agenda then is item F, and this is the open enrollment appeal. And that recommended motion is the Board of Education should approve the findings of fact and conclusions of law as prepared by the hearing officer after the open enrollment appeal hearing of the parents of Logan Boyd as attached, and uphold the denial of the open enrollment request for this student in the case as shown in the attached Exhibit A, proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law.
So moved.
Thanks, Sue. And a second?
Second.
Who pulled this?
I did.
Oh, okay.
What's the appeal process?
Tara Thomas is going to come forward and answer that. Thank you, Tara.
Yes, the appeal process gives a family who has been denied by our superintendent and district a chance to appeal the decision.
So what's the next step?
We have a hearing with a hearing officer, an attorney, and then the school administrators involved and the family.
Is your mic on?
It is, but it's not projecting inwardly, but it is over
Okay,
the broadcast.
great.
So that's why I shut the door so you don't hear the feedback. So sorry if you can't hear me. And that was a hearing then that happened in light of their appeal. So then this was the finding that is presented to you.
So is the next step to the board?
You guys just decide to either approve or deny the hearing officer's decision. So all
So
of our,
when did we change that process?
as long as I've been a part of the district, that's always been the process.
No, we used to do hearings. I've been in hearings, so.
Oh, you were? Oh, okay.
But not for a while.
Yeah,
We
I was going to
haven't
say
done 'em
my only experience has been since 2013.
Yeah, we
And
haven't
so
done
it's
open
the
enrollment hearings for years.
Dr. Lindemann and then the board or the administrators for the school involved.
Yeah, it must have been changed before I was even here because I don't ever remember doing
Yeah.
Yeah.
a hearing that way. They've been the same way since I was here.
Okay.
Yeah, it started when Mike was the president.
Yeah. 5, 8
Yeah,
years,
a while
somewhere
ago.
in there. More than
Okay.
5, so 6 to 8 years ago.
Well, we've got a letter here from, apparently it was in evidence from the Blackhawk County, Blackhawk Grundy Mental Health Center, stating that changing school districts again could cause a setback in his mental health. So this is a therapist from that organization. Generally speaking, you know, every district says they're the best district for every student. I've always felt that that wasn't true. Every district could be the best student for a student, but not every student. Especially with a special needs student. And my experience has also been students do best if they're in an environment that they want to be in and their parents want them to be in. So the combination of the letter from the therapist, the professional therapist, and just the general philosophy that we need to look at every student individually. And I'm not even sure this is best for the district. You know, money is usually we don't want to lose a student, but you know, I think they're underfunded, special needs students are underfunded anyway. So I don't think it's harmful to the district, and I think it's in the best interest of the student to go ahead and grant their wish and the wish of their parents. So I'm gonna vote.
But
no
I
on
guess,
this.
Lyle, I would kind of disagree with that for the fact that I have a friend that their student had this same scenario, and they were going to Valley Lutheran, but because of the special needs, they were going to Pete. This child can still continue to go to Pete, the same arrangement that they still have, as what my friend did too. They decided they didn't want to pay the dollars to go to Pete, to Valley Lutheran, so they brought them to Hoover. So I think that this family still could go to Pete if they so chose by what they're doing at Valley Lutheran, because Valley Lutheran's homeschool is Pete.
Correct. It's an arrangement they have
Yeah.
with Valley
Yes.
Lutheran. I don't know how much it's appropriate to divulge the nuances of the case
Right.
in this
I
forum.
feel pretty uncomfortable about doing this
I
in
could
open
speak
session
to one
without
component
the
that
family's
wouldn't have
permission.
been mentioned in the documentation you have, and that is that upon holding the hearing, when both parents were present, the father did not support necessarily moving out of the district and indicated that the family would be open to voluntary transfer, which they were offered at the time.
Tara, I didn't mean to cut you off. We weren't.
Yeah,
in
that was
the-
just a nuance that I
Right.
thought was
No,
impa-
that's
was
right.
important.
I just
yeah.
don't want to get into a child's status. I don't believe that that's a right thing to do without, discussing it with the parents and the family.
But by
And-
way of the appeal process becoming an open, I mean, it becomes
open.
open record at that point in time. So
Yep.
that's why it's before the board right now. That's the way that process, even though it's not something that we typically feel comfortable doing, discussing a particular student in the public. That is never, it feels uncomfortable, but it is part of the legal
Yeah.
process. This is a legal process that is
Right.
sanctioned by the state of Iowa, and I'm sure other states as well. So
And I was just speaking not of the student directly, but that the student still could go to Pete Junior High.
Right.
Well, by paying tuition.
Right.
But they pay tuition at Valley Lutheran. They're
They
doing
pay
that.
tuition to Valley Lutheran
Right.
to go to Pete.
But they would not need to pay tuition if we approve this.
Right.
Right.
But I think we would have a lot of students we need to approve that for.
Well, but there's a special provision they're asking for in our policy, and this isn't generic. This doesn't apply to every student, whether they meet that special provision or not.
which is truly why we have the hearing officer and why we're looking at that. There is a lot of testimony that comes forward at that point in time. So again, I understand what you're saying,
Oh, no,
because
you
if we
can
went
talk.
through
You're the
all of
superintendent. You
the
may
well,
talk.
no,
I don't mean
if we
to.
went through all of the testimony that was brought forth at that time,
Yeah.
it truly it's a difficult decision. And I think and I understand what the mental health counselor has said, but I will say that there are nuances with that as well. This child really just wanted to be with his friends. That is really what we
Yeah.
were there. I mean, there was just a desire to stay with friends.
And
And that's a very, very slippery slope, because if
and
we're
that's not incidental. That can be a very important
with
part.
but that's why we have procedures and protocols in place, because if we say to every child, please go anywhere you want just to be with your friends, that's why laws are in place it's just something to be very aware of if we are granting enrollments in the state of Iowa based on friendship situations. I would just caution.
Thank you both for that clarification, and you certainly are free to talk about whatever you want. I'm just uncomfortable talking about a student that I wasn't there. Well, no, I'm uncomfortable I wasn't there to hear the story, so now I appreciate having the backstory. So, thank you. Is there anything else? All right, then seeing none, I would we've already got the motion on the table, so all those in favor of approving the recommended motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Motion carried. The next item on our agenda then is item J, which is the school nursing contract. And just give me a minute, I don't have my, I have to get to that in my, come on. I already missed that.
Sure, 55.
I know, I just have to get to 55. The recommended motion is the Board of Education approve the school nursing agreement with the Unity Point Health for 2019-2020 fiscal year.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
And discussion.
I
I
think
think
we,
Lyle, you pulled this.
yeah, we discussed this, I think, last year or the year before in terms of bringing it in-house. If you do the math, with 9 RNs, that's 131,000 each. If you add a supervisor, which would be appropriate for 9 people probably, it becomes 118,000 each. That seems kind of high.
I'm going to ask Marla Pageant, our Director of Student Services, to come forward and address that question, Lyle. And Michael. Whoever
Hi,
wants
how
to
are
jump
you,
in.
Lyle? I couldn't hear you from back there. We're
Yeah.
having real difficulty hearing what's being said up here. So could you repeat what you just said, please?
Yeah, the cost of 1,184,000 for 9 nurses is an average of 131,000 per person.
It's not just the nurses, though. This pays for supplies, and if you look all the way through it, it has the nursing assistants. It has the all of the supplies that we use. They also help us with issues such as that we couldn't get serviced in the past, but vaping is an issue now out in our community, and they are aware of problems with students because they work directly with students, where in the past we didn't have that. So they know what the current issues are and then offer us education. But this is for all the services, not just salaries.
I think
Wow.
some detail on the staffing might help that. It was on a letter that I didn't include in the packet, but the nurse hours last year was 14,320, and that got bumped to 16,192. But the health assistance that Marla was talking about is 25,885 hours. So there's many more hours of health assistance than there are of nurses. I don't have the FTE of how many there are. And then the administrative hours was 2,288 hours for a total of 44,365 hours of time. That is making up this $1 million figure, 1,152,108. And then they added the indirect, which is supplies, about 21,000. But then they also added some ancillary functions of HR and payroll and the things they need to do to process the functions to pay that. So that was a more inclusive breakdown of where that $1 million total is coming from.
And Lyle, they did work to reduce the actual administrative hours in order to give us more face time with kids with the actual staff that we're getting.
Do they split their time among schools, or is it just 9?
They do split their time because you have to have registered nurses, RNs, that are in charge of what's happening with health assistants, but we can't afford an RN for every single school. So they do have schools that they're responsible for, and the health assistants then report to them, and they go between those places. Now, if the needs are higher in one building, they may spend more time there, or if the number of students there is higher as well, which isn't always equal, because sometimes you can have more health needs in one place, even if the population is lower than a school with more.
And this includes assistants as well, right?
I couldn't hear you.
Does this include the nursing assistants as well?
Yes, it includes our nursing assistants as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But we're
Yeah.
we're paying a fully burdened cost. Is that right? All administrative, all overhead, all everything. So, if that's the case, then is there an advantage of having it outside rather than in-house?
And it used to be in-house for like, 25 years ago or before and up to, it was all in-house
But
nurses.
then it went out, but it
Mhm.
wasn't fully burdened. It was,
Right.
it was the prices
Exactly.
of the individuals.
I will say one of the benefits of having this particular contract, because I worked in the schools under the old, and now I'm here in this position with what Unity Point is doing with us. And one of the advantages truly has been they have their hands right on what's happening in medicine, in current, what they're dealing with kids every single day as they're coming into the offices to be seen. And because of that, they can help us build and speak to current issues and provide some education. I do know that one of the RNs that works as an administrator in that program is going to work with KWWL to get a message out around vaping, which is why that came to the forefront. So we have benefited from this and having their expertise in a partnership with us, because we do meet on a regular basis with the people from Unity Point to say, how's this working? Is there something we can do? How can we help? Where's it going?
So are these percentage increases, were they negotiated, or they just tell us it goes up 3.6% this year?
I didn't understand the question.
He was
wants to
asking
know if it
about
was
the negotiation.
negotiated, the prices with them,
The raises.
the raises.
Well, they neg-
We don't negotiate that. That's within their own system.
Except
did-
for the indirect costs that when
Correct.
we look at it, we have the option to go back to
Yes,
them
we
and we look
do.
at it whether they're reasonable or not.
That's
So for
correct.
example, this does not look like the first proposal that came to us. So
It's
Michael
not.
called them about some concerns. So it is negotiated as far as going back and forth.
Is there any reason why we would be negotiating more than 1 year contracts on this?
Jesse, I couldn't hear you.
Is there any reason why we should be negotiating more than 1 year contracts at a time on this? We try to
Question too.
lock in some better pricing for longer periods.
we shouldn't have a longer term
We try to lock in some of the.
Yeah, I think
Cost.
that's probably a
I
very
can
good
check
question.
on that moving forward.
When we started, so just a little bit of history. So a year ago, we the year prior, Black Hawk County Health held our nursing contract. When they determined that they were no longer able to do that, they let us know that they would not be renewing our contract. So at that time, we set up a study group, and there were many of us who spent quite a bit of time looking at the contract and trying to make a decision as to whether we would bring them in-house at that time. We had, quite a few staff. Matter of fact, we even had, we even included some of our current nurses and our health assistants on those study groups. And so we had quite a few meetings to look at what that would look like. And then we did a cost proposal. Michael prepared multiple different options. And then we also looked at the qualitative data. What could we be offered by going through an expert, through Allen or through
Unity
a hospital
Point,
and
yes.
Unity Point. And so when we looked at that, we could have access to their tracking system, their records, their software, some of the training that they were doing. So while we are paying the fully burdened cost of our staff, we actually get some of the ancillary products and processes that come with being part of Unity Point. So the nurses put their data, if they need access to a consultant, they can do that. And so at that time, I remembered that was one of the biggest reasons why we actually went with Unity Point rather than bringing them in-house. We just didn't have the capacity to do it at that point in time. So maybe that provides a little more information.
And,
Well,
and we
I
do
support-
benefit from the best practice. We do benefit
I
from
support
that.
it. I don't really want to get into us being in
Right.
the job of managing healthcare, but
Right.
We have experts out there. But at the same time, I just think that
Yeah.
if we can get longer contracts and lock stuff in, we may be able to.
Right,
have
and
some
I think
savings
that
over the
first year
years.
we just wanted to do one to get one under our belt, and this year maybe we could. I mean, I would agree with you. I think that's a really good comment, and so we can look at that in the future. Right now we're recommending another 1 year contract, but I think you're right that perhaps we could look at it because we have been very happy with Unity Point and the services we're getting through them. So I wouldn't have any qualms about looking at a multi-year contract should they be willing to do that as well.
Do we pay their benefits?
I'm not sure what's all in
Insur-
there.
like
It's that
health
we
insurance?
pay the cost of.
That's what I
they
mean by
charge us a
fully
cost
burdened.
for them. They
That's-
charge us
yeah.
a cost, but I don't know if that is the entire full cost. I actually don't know that. I mean, they shoot us a number and then we look at that.
So they're still considered employees of Unity Point.
Yeah, they are not
That's
our
correct.
employees.
And we need that because of the difference between FERPA and HIPAA, because we're FERPA, they're HIPAA, and they need to be able to keep those things confidential.
So do they
Quick que-
also have duties with Unity Point?
Do they have what?
Additional duties with Unity?
Some of them do. Some of them do. One of the administrator people that we meet with on a regular basis that checks on all of them and is our main point person, she does have additional duties, but she's not part of what we're paying for the registered nurses in the buildings.
I have a quick question. Are they part of the National Association of School Nurses?
I don't know, but I could check.
Please do, because
will.
in terms of best practices, especially if they're evaluating issues and trends, I know that that organization, makes sure that they're following certain protocols as well.
I can absolutely check on that. You're welcome.
And then I was also wondering, like, for the training, like diversity training that we're asking of our SROs, do we have this staff do that also? And bus drivers? Those were my questions.
They do have training with us, and they have most of their training is through Unity Point. But we could absolutely just revisit that. We're a year into the contract, and so now is the time.
And as far
to
as
look at that.
diversity, they've been very helpful with us in some of the training we've done. So when we talk about issues regarding LGBTQ, they have been very helpful because they have some of those answers as well. So they're a resource for us.
I can see there's value in them having real time information on the current trends in health, but I would like a detailed breakdown of the staff and the rates, if that's okay.
Certainly
But
could.
I will
Well,
support
I
this.
guess it wouldn't hurt to explore what it would be if we hired that staff and had them internally.
Well,
We did that a year ago, but we could
Yeah.
absolutely pull that data and have you look at it, because there was a pretty itemized cost to what it would if we paid everything and if they did. And then when we looked at the services that we could get through Unity Point, that was really the determining weight. I guess it tipped the scale.
if
But
we're,
we can pull that report.
if we're happy with it, then I would agree with Jesse. We ought to have a multi-year contract.
And with those services, do that also include, I guess, the mental health part, or we just have separate counselors for that?
I would say there's definitely crossover. We do have additional staff that are more targeted and focused, but there is clearly crossover between the mental health services needed and then physical health, because they're often hand in hand.
Okay,
Trying
so
to
we have
focus on
9
the whole
nurses
child.
that deal with health issues, and how many do we have for mental health then?
Okay, so I will be bringing a contract to you that we have with SuccessLink that works with us on the mental health aspect of that, because they are certified in that field and we use them. So that's a contract that'll be coming later. It's just not due yet.
And approximately how
So
many?
we have, for each school has a certain number, and off the top of my head, it averages about 1 per school, because some schools get more because of the size.
Okay.
Plus, we hire 2 ourselves.
Yes, we do.
2 mental health counselors
That
ourselves.
work
So
on our payroll.
in addition to all of our regular counselors who would not be targeted on mental health, but they would certainly be trained in that. So probably the number is, it's probably about 20 full-time, but
Yes.
then additional on top of that.
And school counselors that go to school to be, school counselor is going to be different than your actual mental health
Right.
counselor.
And the
So-
nurses are different from the
Yep.
mental health.
Yeah,
They
I was
would
gonna
certainly
say,
have
plus
some
these
skills.
9,
Right.
All right, yeah, don't go anywhere, just stay right there.
I saw.
All right, so all those in favor then of approving the school nursing contract, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. That takes us to our next item on the agenda, which is the Community of Schools MOU. And that recommended motion is the Board of Education approve the Communities and Schools Mid-American Memorandum of Understanding for the 2019-2020 school year at a cost of approximately $40,000 for school year to work with our students.
So moved.
And a second? And discussion.
Yeah, I pulled this. I was just wanted to tell you from the two schools at Carver and Central that I really think these two programs have been very beneficial to those two areas. I feel like many times we have these programs and we only have them at limited number of schools, and sometimes the programs sometimes do overlap. For example, like IJAG, there's only 2 schools that have that program, but other schools could benefit from that. So I just at least wanted to kudos. I like this program. The people who are in the positions have done great at those 2 programs. I do have a question in regards to this being very similar to Irving, who is not contracted out. So I'm talking about they have a like community school individual. I'm thinking Carlson, but I can't remember exactly what the program is. And they seem to overlap similar to the needs of that school, but they're not an outside contract. So they get paid just maybe a little bit different pay scale, but they do the same thing. So my question, excuse me, I'm going, what is it called?
Family support worker, yep.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I know there's a lot of overlap of programs that we have, but I guess if I'm in a position, I see a position open and they pay a little bit more, but I'm doing the same thing. Why? I guess, I mean, I great program. I think it's wonderful, but I guess, you know.
I actually don't know what the learning supports worker makes. I will become more familiar as we go. For the community and schools, that's what they set across, because it's not just in Iowa.
Right.
It's in several states. That's what they set for that particular position. And some of the things are different. They work with particular age groups, whereas our learning supports are more at the elementary. Community and schools can be a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 step to help our students as they go along the way. They try to work with what are the things we can do for the entire school, for all kids. So their tier 2 supports can come in. We have a small group of kids that really have this one specific need, but we can work together in a group to get it addressed. And their tier 3 supports can be more one-on-one, even working more exactly with the family and going into the home to try to determine what those needs are and how we can best help even the family manage what they're doing. And that's specific to their particular program. And that was the salary they set. I did bring along for anybody who would like some of the brochures they have in case you want additional information on them. I don't know if I answered that for you. Is that?
I mean, it's a hard question to answer, you know.
It is, and I do know about overlap because
Right.
I've had to ask, because I've worked in schools with IJAG, I've worked in schools with any of the number of programs, and we want to make sure that it's not a complete overlap, that we can get what we need for students without the kind of indiscretion you're talking about in salaries. But we don't set the salary for
Correct.
communities and schools.
Okay.
They're actually not our employees, and
Right.
so it's really no different from a 5th grade teacher in one district making something different. So it is tricky though, because sometimes they're doing very similar
They
roles,
are.
but whoever holds their contract sets
Right.
their salary. So these, while we may contribute to a person's salary as we do with IJAG, we don't set their salaries
Correct.
because we don't pay the bulk of the So I mean, it's a real thing. You're right.
Anything further?
No, that was it. Thanks.
All right. Then all those in favor of approving, the Communities and Schools Memorandum of Understanding, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
The next item on our agenda then is setting the date of the public hearing for the sale or disposal of real property, and that recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the date of July 15th, 2019 at 5 p.m. to hold the public hearing for the sale or disposal of real property as outlined.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. And a second. Thanks, Jesse. And discussion.
Yeah, I pulled it. Just it's been a while since we talked about it. Just wanted to let the community know what property we're talking, and do we know if it's going to be? Is it going to be zoned residential, or how does that work when property is sold after a demolition? Just to let
That's a question I don't know the answer to. We'll probably have to go to planning and zoning.
I think it would depend. I think a lot of it depends on who would be interested in purchasing it, and then the planning and zoning might look to if
right.
somebody
So
wanted
it's not already
zoned
No, it-
commercial or
after
zoned.
demolition is just
Yep, it's just the parcel of
after the
land
purchase it goes. Okay.
And it would
Yep, and
have to go to planning and zoning to be rezoned.
to be
Right.
rezoned.
Before anything, and then that would go to council.
Right.
So it's a process.
Yeah.
And unless we would swap, technically the city may ask the district to purchase the property and then, that happens, but it still has to be zoned. So all that would be public.
So what would it
And
be?
it's Longfellow, by the way. The
Yes,
property we're
yeah,
talking about is Longfellow Elementary.
I
I don't know if
probably
we
should've
got that.
said
No,
that.
that's
Yeah.
all right. And as we've talked about many times from this table, it's a long time coming to get that building down. So
So our facilities are zoned what? What would it be right now?
Probably be mixed because there's
Mixed.
residential by it, so it's
Mixed
probably
use.
like a mixed use, maybe I think it wouldn't be commercial.
is it R3 or would it
Maybe
be-
R3 because it'd be mixed use, R3 or R2.
I don't know.
So there isn't a common designation for
For all sorts of
school
stuff.
property?
Well, I do believe that there's a caveat for schools for the fact that with the sex offender registry, that has to be made public with the school in that zone property. So, but I'm not
Okay.
100% positive. Because it is so mixed. Like if you look at a central, there's not
Yeah.
many houses, so that would be zoned differently than like an
Yeah.
Irving, right in the middle of.
We could probably. I'm sure we
But
could
there
find
are
out.
there are addresses and things that are zoned different, even though they're in residential.
Right.
I mean, so it could be.
Because they go for variance, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The bottom line is, we haven't changed the zoning. Whatever it was, it is.
It is. Yeah.
Is that correct?
Right, and it would have to be changed before anything was done
Yeah.
with it.
And the buyer would have to go
Yeah.
through the appropriate channels and have the public hearings.
Well, the buyer could buy it and then
Then
decide-
And
work
then
on
go
that
at-
and then
right,
change it
right.
if it worked.
And I think a lot of times they will go after the zoning before they actually
Yeah.
buy it to make sure. A good example of that is the land that we sold to the doctor's office on Logan, the old Logan property. They went to the zoning to have that rezoned to check and make sure they could do that before they purchased that to make a doctor's office out of it.
Good example.
Great question.
And then before, the planning and zoning approves it, then it goes to council and has to go through council.
Okay. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay.
Yes.
Anything further on that, Astor, or anybody else?
I'm just really glad that neighborhood has been extremely patient
They
to get
have.
rid of that building. So thank you very much. We've finally coming to our promise that it will be gone. So I'm glad for you and just thank you for waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. So. All right. Anything further? Great. Then all those in favor of setting the date for the public hearing for the sale or disposal of real property, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is item N, which is the student transportation. I'm not sure, I don't remember which one to be pulled up, but I will get that motion on the floor in just a minute when I get to it. All right, and the recommended motion is the Board of Education accept the recommendation provided from the Facility Committee and approve the 3-year contract extension through July 31st of 2022 for student transportation services to Durham Student Services.
So moved.
Thank you, and a second?
Second.
Thank you, India. And discussion.
I believe I pulled this, I think. Just had it.
I didn't write down who
That's so
pulled
long
each
ago.
one. They were going so fast.
Just a quick question about, and I don't know if this would be in the contract, but the cameras on the bus, are they all going to be working? And
Well,
how can we keep the technology to keep
Sure.
them working?
Could we bring up? We have multiple people here
Yeah,
from
from
our
Durham.
So I will let them introduce themselves, and we have an outgoing and an ingoing transportation director, and so we'll make sure we introduce them as well. So
Brent,
go
will you
ahead.
come up too, just so the board can meet you? That'd be great. Thank you. You don't have to talk. Just stand there.
I'm Alicia Hodges. I'm the regional manager. I had the opportunity to meet with some of you probably about a month ago. To answer your question, yes, they'll all be working. The proposal includes all new cameras on the buses.
Okay, and the maintenance, who will maintain the maintenance on them if they do go out?
Our operations director will
Okay.
in our facility over here.
Okay, here, local.
Yes,
Got
yeah,
it.
sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Alicia, will you introduce, or Kathy and
Yes,
Brent,
I'm
you
so
two
sorry.
Can, that's
So
all right.
you
Just
guys
introduce.
know Kathy Corbett here, who's been your GM for a while. Very proud of her and everything she's done here in Waterloo. And then this is Brent Knutson, who will be the new GM here in Waterloo for you guys.
Excellent.
And I actually, I'm the newer regional manager, but I live here in Iowa, so I'm nice and close if you guys ever need anything.
I know I did talk to Dr. Litter about this, but in the future, at some point, can we have discussion about having a parent app for the bus
Yeah,
system?
absolutely.
I know there might be some confidentiality or something in regards to that, but it would be kind of helpful to just know if a bus is not showing up and a phone call comes, but when nobody's at home to get that phone call,
Yep.
or a fifth grader doesn't have a cell phone, excuse me. It would just nice to have an app to say A, B, and C is happening.
Absolutely, we have that available.
Okay.
So we can certainly work with the district on getting that up and running.
Okay.
You betcha.
Follow up on the cameras. Is the technology the same as it was, or you had to pull a tape and look at it, or I know there was some that automatically downloaded when they came in.
Yeah.
Where's your technology on that today?
Yeah. And if you ever need to jump in, you can.
It's a hard drive, not a tape.
Yeah.
But it's the new cameras will be a lot better equipped to handle what we need to do. I do not believe the new cameras include the automatic download though.
So there's several cameras on the bus. 2 of them are CCTV, and those are hard drive. The third camera is what we call drive cam, and that camera is available by download. So that is one that downloads. And what that camera is, so the CCTV is constantly running with audio and visual on the bus. The drive cam is triggered by a force event. And so if there's a hard brake, or if there's a swerve, or if there's a bump, that camera goes on, and then we are able to see what's going on the outside of the bus, and it's a direct shot of the driver to see what's going on the inside of the bus too. And what that has allowed us to do is, one, investigate anything that's happened along with our CCTV cameras, and then also just help continually coach and develop our drivers, because it helps us provide, like, hey, you had a hard stop at this light, make sure you're slowing down sooner. So it provides us coachable opportunities too.
It also helps us with the driver can initiate the button in the thing to get the drive cam to go off, which can help us with some of our stop arm violations and things going on that the drivers want to show other people or want to show what's going on.
That's again a follow up on that. It seems like probably one of the most dangerous elements of a student going to school is getting off the bus in a car not stopping when they should. So you say there is a button. The driver's not going to have time to get a license plate.
There's a button that they can push that will help us. It's not perfect, but it helps us because it takes pictures of the front window of the bus, what's going on outside. It also takes pictures of the back, so sometimes you can catch it through the back window. But the driver can push the button if they can't get the driver's license. the license plate.
So you're going to take a picture of both the front and the back at that time.
When they push the button, it takes 8 seconds before
Yeah.
and 4 seconds after, or vice versa. I can't remember which.
I think it's vice versa because I think
yeah,
it
I think-
snags the right. So if something happens when they push the button, because it's recording all the time, but it's not downloading all the time. So when they push the button, it snags. It goes back and captures the few seconds prior to that happening. So and then it also extends it past the event, with the event being the push of the button.
So have we had any success in identifying violators?
A couple. Not a lot, but a couple.
And they've really strengthened that law, that state law,
Yeah.
a couple years ago for running a stop sign, for running a stop arm, has really, the fine for that has really gone up significantly.
Do you document when that happens?
Yeah.
So how often?
What we do is we have a form that we fill out. We take it down to the police department so that they can.
How often does that happen?
How often do we catch violators, or how often does that camera?
How often does someone not stop when they ought to?
I would have to go back and get that exact information for you. We just did a survey for the Department of Education, and I believe during our survey from one day, it was May 1st, we probably had 15 people that had issues with stop arms.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Not all of them that we got license plates for, but we had about 15 violators.
Is that one day or in what period?
That was May 1st. They did a survey for the Department of Education, and I believe that's how many we had that day.
I do think important to note how Kathy has focused on routing is that our children, in most cases, don't cross the street as
Yeah.
right. They're exiting
We try
right.
to avoid that as
We
much
try
as
to
we
avoid
possibly
that as much as we possibly can. But I do think you have a good point, and as we bring our drivers back together for startup of next year to discuss how we can better document folks that are driving past our stop arm cameras.
But as a organization, there's technology to identify each and every one, is there not?
We can look into having. Do you have cameras on the stop arms? We can look into having cameras on the stop arms.
I'm just saying, as Durham, as a company, that's not standard practice to have cameras on the stop sign to identify.
Typically, that's at the request of the district to have a stop arm camera on our stop arms. But all buses are equipped with the drive cam, which can record out of the bus if somebody were to go by.
Yeah, but you're only getting a small percentage of the violators, right?
Yeah. Yep. But we can.
So
sorry.
in districts that you do have the stop arm,
Mhm.
because I see this, it's not really the bus to police it. It is, but our police have to enforce it. So if you have that stop arm on the stop sign, then what happens in a district? You give that to the police, and then
Correct.
the police go after that person. And then what's the success rate of that?
I mean, we've been pretty successful. We've run a few campaigns in other districts, and they've been pretty successful. Yep. You have to have that. You have to have that good view of the license plate.
Right, because I kind of envision it as like the speeding tickets, you know, that
Right.
a lot of people I know
Right.
have got. And
Yep.
they show your license plate,
Yep.
but then if you say that wasn't me driving my car, then you don't pay the ticket.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Yep.
Kathy, I just want to take a minute and digress and just say, I believe this is your last day. Am I correct in that? And I just want to thank you as a mom who had kids that rode the bus. I know how difficult it can be at times, especially this past winter that we had. I always appreciated the fact that you routed specifically to deal with some difficult things out by me and out in the country. But in any case, all that you've done to really raise the standard here in Waterloo, I am so thankful for and so appreciative of. And I think all of us would agree that I know it's not perfect all the time, but we think the world of you. And so best of luck, and please don't be a stranger.
But if you think I was great, wait till you see what Brent can do.
I hear you're pretty good at operations, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
But, and I had one more, and I
Yes, I
also
didn't mean
echo
to.
that, Kathy, as far as whenever I've called you, very responsive and just looking out the best for our kids and the routes. And I know Lyle's worked with you lots and is your friend. So, but we appreciate all of your hard work too. But, and just a question as far as, you know, we are talking about like additional potential training for our SRO officers, maybe our nurses. So would that be available, I guess, for our bus drivers too on your end?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, we can provide that through Durham, or oftentimes we work with the district on different behavior management that they're training their own employees that we train our bus drivers on. We've had several districts that have gone through CPI training with our drivers, and so we're certainly willing to work on any of that. Yep.
Super. Thank
So
you
far,
very
we've
much.
done the mental health training, the mental health first aid training with most of our monitors have been through it. Donna
And-
got a grant and she got us all through it.
Great.
And I would like to personally thank Kathy too. I probably pestered her more and indulged her more and asked for more favors than anybody else. So, thanks.
It's okay, Lyle, I'm gonna miss you the most.
She's not going far if you want to give her a call over in Davenport.
No, you've done a great job. We don't hear much about busing, and that's always a wonderful sign.
Thank you very much.
Years ago, we'd get a lot of calls, and so you've done a good job.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to you. You see what you get to do with Lyle.
All right, is there anything further? Then all those in favor of approving the student transportation service contract, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Then next item on our agenda then is a resolution to adopt return to play protocol. And this is a new piece from the state. It's a new code, and that is that the Board of Education approved the Waterloo Schools. That's not the right one. Got the wrong thing in front of me. That the Board of Education approve and sign the attached resolution to adopt return to play protocol.
So moved.
Thank you, Esther and Sue, a second? Yeah. Awesome, thank you. And is there any discussion?
Oh, it's
No, consent. It's,
Yeah, this was
That was so
this is just concussion protocol that the Iowa Code, has asked that all school districts, it is by now law, that they all have to adopt this, so. Do you want me to read the resolution, you all? No, okay.
Do we think this is adequate, or do we need to go beyond what the state is calling for?
I actually think that this has had many eyes on it, and so I think it's adequate.
Could the coach comment?
Yeah, Coach, do you want to comment on the? You never asked me. Sure.
Nothing like putting you on the
Yeah.
spot.
You could have gotten out.
Sorry, it's a habit. So, what I can tell you about this is I actually know the gentleman that proposed this down in Des Moines. He's from Maquoketa. He's no longer a legislator in the legislature anymore. And from what I'm looking at it again, these are Leslie's our trainer at West, and these are the steps she already follows. It's with the Athletic Training Association and some legislators, and I believe some superintendents, people like that all got involved together also. The biggest part is the return to learn, just not the return to play part of it, and that's
Right.
what they really push.
Yeah,
So,
here, here.
Okay.
and from what I see on it, those are the same exact steps that she goes through
Yep.
already through our trainers.
And just a question as far as the padding. I've read some reports on different padding underneath the helmet. You're laughing at me.
No,
As far as it is, what we use here, is that on average? Is it good? Is it bad?
As far as middle school goes, I don't know. I don't know what they have as for helmets. What we have at West and what they have at East, it's called a SpeedFlex helmet. It's one of Virginia Tech does a rating of all the helmets that you can possibly buy. There's some that are $600, $700, $800, $900 a piece. Some that are $300 a piece. The ones that we have are very safe as far as the helmets that we do have. They're made very well. And East has the same ones that we do. I mean, no helmet's concussion proof. There is no such thing as a concussion proof helmet. It's not possible to prevent a concussion. I mean, the brain moves around in your head. You can't stop that from happening. But what you can do is the teaching part of it, teaching them the right way to tackle and the right way to do all of everything involved in every sport, just not football.
Right.
So, but the helmets that we have they're around $450, $500. They're very good helmets, and they're the safest ones that I had them at my other 2 schools as well. There's lots of schools around that buy them.
And do you know the age of them? So they're current, up
Yes,
to date
they're
equipment?
very current. I don't know the exact number. I think we just ended up with 19 or 20
they're pretty
brand new
recent.
helmets
They're
this
pretty
year.
recent.
And
Yeah.
East just had the same amount either last year or the year before.
10 years.
So
Great.
do we have enough that we don't have to compromise fit?
Yeah, we have every size from small to double extra large, which is a very big helmet. So we just got rid of, there's an older type of helmet that we used to have, and I think last year was the last year we had. And those other helmets that previously had, they're also safe as well. They rate pretty high on that scale I talked about as well. And we wouldn't put a kid in something that we don't think is safe, quite honestly. If we think it looks like something's wrong, if it has a little tiny crack in it, we call Sean, the Rydell rep, and we call him and say, hey, this isn't working. We need something different.
Do you replace them on so many every year? Or
Yeah, they're on there's
cycle.
actually a sticker on the back of it. They're only good for 10 years. After 10 years, you cannot use them anymore per their standards. It's like same thing with softball. They have the same standard
Yeah.
as baseball. They have the same
Car
standard for
seats.
I
those.
think that was USA football. I think.
What's that?
I think
USA
USA football
football.
set a lot of standards.
They help with that. It's NOSC, not NOSC, I think is what it's called. They actually have their own group. They certify all the helmets that way.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think
Great.
you may also make an important note here that this protocol covers all sports, not just football here.
Right.
So I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Right.
potential in just about every sport
Oh my
there.
gosh, yes.
Yep.
Soccer, girls soccer has more
Yes.
concussions than any other sport.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So I can guarantee Leslie follows the protocol because we had quite a few girls this year that had
Leslie's very
concussions.
good at what she
She's
does.
great. So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right. Then all those in favor of approving the resolution to adopt the return to play protocol, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. The next item on our agenda then is the extended lease of the former AEA building, and the recommended motion is the Board of Education accept the superintendent recommendation to approve the lease with Central Rivers AEA for the former AEA 267 Conference Center for the 2019-20 school year for the use of a temporary space for Lowell Elementary School.
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, India.
You're welcome.
And discussion, I can turn it over perhaps to Dr. Lindeman if anybody has questions. Pretty straightforward lease agreement.
Just a quick question as far as has anything been thought of or any possible plan for some outside recess time there?
They do go out.
Right. Yeah, they actually do go outside. And Dr. Mohorn, do you want to share what your experiences were? She actually went over and watched recess recently. Good Lord, that's a...
Well, I was just doing a building visit, so I just dropped by Lowell, and I just happened to see some of them going out for recess. And they had balls and jump ropes and hula hoops, and so they were outside playing. I had not seen that before. And we just had that conversation about playground equipment, but the kids were outside. I believe it was maybe kindergarten or first grade. They were pretty little, but they were outside playing. They had a big open blacktop area that they were playing on.
So they're playing on Blackhawk. There's no like grassy area that.
What
could
I saw, they were
potentially-
playing on blacktop. That's just what
Okay.
I happened to see.
So the question as far as will they have a grassy area right now, the only thing we had talked about is working with our insurance company to see what type of facility they might be able to provide for us to look at that. And now that we've got a lease coming to you, we can take a look at that and see. We've mentioned this multiple times that the insurance settlement, as far as the move, they do cover they cover the costs that are associated with the move. And so we've talked with them about what we might need to do. There were certain things we didn't do when we thought it was going to be a 3-month move. And now that we know it's going to be longer, we will definitely look at that. But they do get to go outside, but it's not exactly the same because there isn't the grass.
I guess I was just wondering, if we do renew this again, then we will still have the same busing issues as far as, are we looking at any changes to the busing?
Yeah, we actually are looking at some changes to the busing. I'm not going to share those right now, but I can assure you we are looking at something that would make it more family friendly. This actually, I would say what we have done in the interim has worked really well, but I think we actually have a plan for something that might work even a little better.
Great, thank you.
And parents will be hearing that shortly. I just don't have all the details right now. So.
Right.
All right, anything else on the lease? Okay, then all those in favor of approving the extending lease at the former AEA building, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. So the next item on our agenda is the Community Eligibility Provision, or the CEP program. And their recommended motion is the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the District Finance Committee and approve all schools listed for the Community Eligibility Provision for the 2019-2020 through 2022-2023 school year. Thank you, Astor. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, India. And discussion? All right. If there's no discussion, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the CEP program, please signify by saying aye.
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 And those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Motion carried. The next item on our agenda, this is the second reading for these board policy changes. I will invite Tara forward. That's all right. So the recommendation is that the board approve the following policies: compulsory attendance ages, transfer of students within district or special permission, open lunch period, student government, student records access, Wednesday night student activities, attendance and tardy policy, and tobacco nicotine products free environment.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Sue and Jesse. And with that, I will turn it over to Tara.
Thank you. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
All right, well, seeing no further questions, then all those in favor of approving the following board policy changes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
those opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. Well, that concludes the action items on our agenda this evening. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Lindemann for her superintendent's report.
Yeah, just a short report tonight. Most of all, I just want to thank all of everyone, all of the stakeholders that are involved in getting to a safe completion of a school year. We know that our staff worked so hard to make sure that students were learning this year. Our students were fantastic. Parents worked so hard to get them to school and to support our work. And so it's just every single year when the school year is over, I'm just always really grateful for a good learning year and a year that was safe for students. And so I think it was a good end of the year, but I could also tell, to be honest, that when we got to Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, that our kids were done. They were done. They were just ready to start that second phase of their school year, which is the summertime. So, and with that, I guess I also encourage our public to get out and see all of the many things that are going on. We still have a lot of different events: baseball, softball. There's there's just so many things going on in the community, and so Oh, you may stop so you can say that. I don't want to take Rhonda's thing, but there's just so many things going on, and so there's just a lot of opportunities for kids, whether it's camps or a variety of things. So make sure that you ask a lot of questions if you're looking for a connect there. And then we are really appreciative to Central Rivers for extending the contract to us. When we had negotiations with them, it required them pulling their building off out of the market, and so we appreciated them doing that. We had done a very diligent effort, I think, in looking at opportunity or different options for our students. As we know, this building is just across the outside of our school boundary. It's not very far, but it still is outside of Waterloo, just barely. But so we looked at different options to bring the students back here, and we actually had a set of criteria. There were multiple people who went around to various sites. We ran the different sites through our criteria list and rated everything, and really we just couldn't find anything that was better than the space that they are in. And so we are appreciative of that. We did tell the staff on a week ago. They knew that they were going to be staying together, but they weren't exactly sure where. And so we did talk with them, and we sent messages to families. And so I believe everybody has been kept aware or is now notified about what the plan is for next year. So we're appreciative of that, and I think it's a good learning environment for them. And then I guess the last thing I would say is that we are gearing up for already, even though we just got out of school last Friday, we are already working really hard to make sure that we have a good launch to our next school year, and this is really go time for us. I often am asked, so do you even work during the summer? And I think, oh my gosh, it's really it's some of our busiest times to make sure that we are gearing up for that. So I would also urge any of the parents or public, if you have any questions about your child for the next school year, now is the perfect time to ask them. I think every year, maybe sometimes on the first day of school, we get a lot of questions about, attendance centers or a variety of things. And it really is, we're working all summer. So I invite people to reach out to us. Let us answer your questions. Tell us what's on your mind, and we'll work through that. So thank you.
So what's the first day of classes?
The first day of classes is Monday, August 26th.
Yep.
And if people are wondering about that, I know that sometimes people like to start earlier, some people like to start later. August 23rd is the first date that we are able by law to start school, but that happens this year to fall on a Friday. So rather than bringing kids in on a Friday, we are choosing, I think pretty much Andrew can cover this in his news story, but I believe most districts are starting on Monday. I know Cedar Falls is, and I think a lot of the surrounding communities are as well. So I think it's going to be a pretty universal start date of August 26th.
And it ends when? Just asking.
I don't know. I don't know that right offhand. I'm not exactly sure.
I think it's June 1st.
Is it June 1?
I think it's June 1.
I'm actually not sure.
I think it's June.
I'll tell you what, we can look it up. It's online, and people can go to our website, click on calendars, and look at the calendar and see.
I got it here.
Do you have it? Who's got it? Who's the fastest?
I think it's June 1st, but I don't know.
I got it because I have a senior this year.
I really don't know, but that is a great question. June 2nd. June 2nd. Now we know. Now we know.
We have snow days. That seemed like a quick year.
We do. We have two built in full time, but we also have a third one built in if it would be a very tricky summer or tricky winter like we had this year, where we missed a lot of days in January. Then we do have that third day built in. I'm glad somebody brought that up. That is probably one of the most commonly asked questions. I attended the bus driver end of the year picnic on Friday night, and I was talking with some, and they said, we think that you should automatically build in 10 days, and then if we don't need them, we could just get rid of them. And so I was processing that a little bit, and I get that question quite often. All that does is really push our end of the school year. If we build in multiple days throughout the year, then that puts our last school day on June 10th, which is sometimes where we end up anyway. So while I understand that concept, it is just, it's a trick in scheduling about the right amount of time. You don't want to go too much longer than what people think, but sometimes that happens, and usually it's just on very, very challenging winters like what we had this year.
And Jane, as long as you're talking about next year, about registration, is that all online this year?
This year registration is all online. It's our first year of doing that. I fully expect we will have some, they've done a great job of prepping for it. I'm guessing we'll have some bumps. in the road. They've done a really good job of modeling it after Des Moines Public, which has 3.5 times the students that we have, is completely online registration, and we are using the same system that they are using. So I'm hoping it will go extremely well, but we'll see how that goes this first year. But it is online. And there are different, there's a lot of different times that you can get assistance. Matter of fact, we have people here full time that can help. So if anyone is having trouble navigating the system or doesn't have access, you absolutely can still come here and we will walk you through the system and help you with that and get that done. Great question. Thank you. Awesome.
And lastly, is the online in different languages?
I think so. I don't know that answer. Do you know that? Is the online registration in multiple languages? Sue, that's a great question. I want to say yes, but I do you know that, Tara?
I know when we communicated.
Just yell, Tara.
When we communicated to families to give them the heads up that online registration was happening this year, it was in multiple languages. Whether it's going to be on the website, I don't know the answer, but we can check with Student Services.
I do know that we made, I think it might be in some languages, but not all languages. So we have made a few arrangements. For example, some families from Burma had asked us if we could host a special physical registration opportunity, and we would publicize it to families, and that they could come in and there would be interpreters there. So if they weren't able to navigate the online system, they could come to a site that would be, I'm not actually exactly sure of the date of that, but I know that has been out. And the board actually voted and approved the Embark contract, and that's how we got that information out to them. So Embark communicated that and said anybody who wants to come in and have a physical registration, they can absolutely do that, and interpreters would be present.
Okay, I'm done with questions.
Okay, thanks. Rhonda, you want to go next?
Yes, I just wanted to wish everybody a really great, fun, and safe summer. And with that, now these activities are not the official policy of the school district. However, I just wanted families to know, stop by the Experience Waterloo website, and it has some summer activities for youth. And again, that website is www.experiencewaterloo.com, and it's under 2019 Summer Kids Activities. So please stop by there and look at that. And then also one of my favorite websites is Macaroni Kid, and it has free and primarily free activities for youth as well. That website is cedarfalls.macaronikid.com. Hopefully you know how to spell macaroni. It's one N, one I, and R. I guess I need to spell it now. It's cedarfalls.macaronikid.com, all one word. So please look for some things for your kids to do. And I know India, they have some things at the library for the summer also. Oh, they don't? Okay, I'm going to stay out of India's business.
Go ahead, India, you go.
Yeah.
So since she's plugging, I'm going to go ahead and plug the Waterloo Public Library, since today was summer library programs, the beginning of the start, and we had a lot of kiddos. But we also have teen programming, and this year we have adults. So those who are adult readers can get on board, and so we have some great activity for all. And guess what? It's free. And so is a library card. So come see us at the library, because we would love to see you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Jesse, I'm just going to stay down here now.
Okay.
Y'all are.
All right.
Tell me
Well,
about a summer program. Let's go.
I don't have a summer program. I'm gonna go a totally different direction here. I want this year as a parent, my last year as an elementary parent. My family's been at Lou Henry Elementary for 13 years, including when I had a pre-K program there. And Friday was a pretty emotional day. Towards the end of the school day, we took a walk through, and we'll be back helping that building. My wife loves to do things there, but it'll be different not being in the building as a parent for the first time after so long, and 4 kids through there. And I just want to, that building was really instrumental in me. The staff have been there, just become just a great supporter of the school district, and what I saw from my kids through there and what's done for them. And I just want to thank the president, the past staff of that building, what they've done for my family, and the great things they've done, and just hope that they just continue on in providing that too. So.
Well, speaking of summer activities, a lot of times I know that our students don't get great meals, so I wanted to put a plug in for Rodney's Kitchen. He's just an awesome guy, and I saw the article today that it starts tomorrow. He has a free sack lunch program, and their free sack lunches are available from 11 to 2 on Tuesday through Friday, so 4 days a week, for all June, July, and August, starting tomorrow. And so you can go in there and get a good sack lunch, and I just appreciate his support of our community. And I know there's another site that shows like different schools you can get breakfast and lunch at all summer also. And so there is no excuse for not having at least one good meal a day, because we're providing breakfast at some schools, lunch at some schools, and Rodney's Kitchen is giving you a really good sack lunch every day. So again, our community rallies around our students, and if you go and get a lunch from him, or if you go there to eat, just be sure to thank him for all he does for our district, for our kids, and he helps kids not to go hungry. So thank you.
I was not going to have anything to say, but just piggybacking off what everybody else said, just as a youth, make sure the youth stay involved this summer. Parents as well, support your children. There are so many activities going on in the community, so just stay involved and support your kids and enjoy the summer.
Thank you. And Lyle?
Nothing additional.
What? Really? All righty then. Just a note for our public, this is the only board meeting that we have in June. Our next board meeting will be on July 15th. And then in August, we'll go back to our second and fourth Mondays of the month. So if no one has anything further, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, India. And all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. We are adjourned. Have a great evening.